Today on the channel, it's time to get ultimate once again as we take a look at Super 7 Ultimates Brian Myers. Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another Super 7 unboxing and review, as today we take a look at, from the Major Wrestling Figure podcast line, good enough, we're taking a look at Super 7 Ultimate Edition Brian Myers. And of course, for all your Super 7 needs and a whole lot more, hit up Big Bad Toy Store. Link in the description below. And that's exactly what I did here. Big Bad Toy Store, once again, I put in all these Super 7 videos. You don't have to pay for the product till it ships. Don't let somebody sit on your money for 14 months or longer. Go to Big Bad Toy Store, and of course, support the channel. Use the link in the description below. And we're of course going to do this unboxing like we do all the other unboxings on the channel. We're going to take a look at the packaging, we're going to talk about it, we're going to unbox it, we're going to talk about it, and we'll see where it goes from there. So we've already unboxed Matt Cardona. You guys hopefully checked out that video. If you have not, go back, check that one out either before or after this, doesn't really matter. And today we look at his fellow Major Wrestling Figure podcast host in Brian Myers. Both guys no stranger to the wrestling arena, as you guys know. No stranger to action figures as devoted collectors like we all are. So it's really cool to get, for them, it's even cooler than it is for us, as it's got to be really cool to get your own action figure, especially a high-end action figure. So let's take a look here. First, as usual with Super 7, you get the nice brown protective box. Look at that, Brian Myers in cursive. Pretty cool there. Always recommend saving these. Why wouldn't you? Protect the packaging. This is packaging you don't want to throw in the garbage. And if you're like me and you got about 100 Super 7 figures, these add up. You got to find some big totes in a garage or an attic or something. Store them away. I don't know. See you later. Off to the side. Now let's take a look at the packaging. Much like we saw with Matt Cardona with his more patented colors, we're getting a little of that with Brian Myers as well. We get that Major Wrestling Figure podcast, but this time instead of the purplish color, we're getting orange, nice gold to it, nice lightning background. As we know, this is a slip cover. It does come off. On the back, the title belt does fasten right there. So very cool. I do love this packaging. I talk about loving Super 7's packaging all the time. They really did outdo themselves with this one. Just absolutely stunning, amazing. As always, be careful undoing this belt, as you could very easily rip the cardboard, but it does come off if you are so inclined. So very, very cool. I think those belts are absolutely fabulous. I think it was a great idea. I don't know who thought of it, but it's kudos to you. Kudos to you. There you go. Then you get Brian Myers there, and I talked about in the Matt Cardona figure how the lightning in the back just really pumps and pops, really pops at your eyes. And then you get the Brian Myers logo, the M logo. It looks like it's shooting out of the packaging. I really do like the effect they have on that. The New York Mets colors, of course, Brian Myers, big Mets fan. I do love the color scheme here. Blue and orange go great together. Like a young Alley Viper in the G.I. Joe classified line is what it always reminds me of. You got that going on there, and then of course you got Brian Myers on the back. Warnings, UPCs, blah, blah, blah. Ultimate on the top. So now we get to the moment of truth. We got to take the slip cover off. As usual, we love the slip cover. I'm going to say it again. Make sure you save this packaging. Don't throw it away. People are going to want it. If you're going to sell it one day, you'll get a lot more money from your figure if you save this beautiful packaging. See you later. Off to the side. Now we get down to Brian Myers. There he is. Much like Matt Cardona, many a head sculpt in there. Look at that. You get extra hands. You get a microphone. You get a little figure. All that kind of stuff. A lot going on here. He does have an entrance jacket as well. We'll get it out. We'll put it through its paces, all that fun stuff. You got that nice ring with the ropes and everything. Just really cool packaging on this one. It does wrap around on both sides. Ultimate on the top. On the back, you got another blurb. It's going to be reading time with Kyle very shortly here. You got the Brian Myers logo at the top. Little glamour shot of him in real life, and then the blurb down here. Let's see what it says about old Brian Myers. For over 16 years, Brian Myers has dedicated his life to not just pursue his dreams, but ensure they become a reality. A lifelong pro wrestling fan, his championship trajectory began right after high school graduation, and he's never looked back since. A multiple-time champion who's seen success around the world with a mix of high-flying ability and in-ring technique. The Prince of Queens continues to feed his passions and pass down his knowledge as both host of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast and head trainer at Create a Pro Wrestling Academy. He's not just a professional wrestler, he is the most professional wrestler. So I would love to know who did the copyright on this. Did Matt and Brian do that themselves, or how did that work out? I don't know. We might never know. But very cool presentation, very cool packaging. Can't get much more than an A+ on these, and I do view that way for most Super 7 figures. Just absolutely phenomenal packaging. If you're leaving this in the packaging, man, looks great. Looks great, but you guys know me. We got to get it out of the package, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'm going to do it like all the other Super 7s. Going to take it offline, get it all out, and we'll be back to take a look at Brian Myers. All right, we're loose. We're out of the package. We're ready to party. Let's jump into Brian Myers Super 7 Ultimate Edition. So we're going to kick it off just like we did with the previous one. We do have the exact same microphone. Once again, got to get the most out of your molds. Makes a lot of sense. Major Wrestling Figure podcast throughout. No paint issues on this one. A hair big. Just a hair big, but it's not the end of the world. The box just is the big part. It seems like the box part's just a little bit bigger, but it's nice branding, nice logos. It fits with what they were doing for. So there's that. Of course, we did get the exact same dog tags with Brian Myers that we got with Matt Cardona. I do appreciate that. Once again, getting the most out of your molds. Very easy to make more of these. Just throw it in. It feels like you're getting more when it wasn't as hard to do as maybe if they were only making one of them. So you do get Major Wrestling Figure podcast dog tags with the logos on them as well. So that is very cool. Then you get the world's smallest figure. We've talked world's smallest before on the channel. I love the idea that they got figures of themselves to hold. What other wrestling figure would get a wrestling figure for that figure to hold? Boy, it's really plays with your mind a little bit, but I do like this one. Once again, great detail on Brian Myers. The faces are basically plain, but the logos, everything else, the back of the jacket, phenomenal, very cool. It's been a very good year for figures of figures. As we saw with Red Guardian, the world's smallest, they're selling fairly well. Of course, I have the world's smallest Skeletor figure right here. You can kind of put those guys side by side. World's smallest Skeletor is a little bit taller. For sure, but very cool to get a minifigure. I'm here for that all day. I think that's really cool, tongue-in-cheek. Kudos Super 7 for giving us stuff like that. Then we get down to some of the hands that we get with Brian Myers. Now, Brian, he's ready to fight. He's the most professional wrestler, except when he's not, because he's got two fists on him. And fists, we know, aren't legal, but are a must in the wrestling game, a must in the action figure community. And he is locked in with two fists of fury on his hands. I fully support that. But then once again, you get some different hands here, some holding hands. And I'm trying to see what the difference is here. So, okay, we got the big C grip hands. We got two, obviously a left and a right. The big open hands. And then you got the closer, closed-in open hands here. So you can choose your own hand adventures, like we always like to say. I love fists on my figures. I think I'll probably keep him with the fist, but we'll see. We'll see where it nets out at. So you get extra hands with him as usual. Then we get a mask, and this mask is very cool. As we know, Brian Myers taking strict protocols with COVID, of course. He's always got his COVID mask. Well, maybe not, but I do think it is a really cool thing that sets him apart from a lot of other wrestlers. You guys know Kyle's a sucker for a mask, even a half mask. And I do like when he comes out, rips that off on his entrance. Very cool, matches his gear, all that fun stuff. Very cool. And I could see these Super 7 figures. We always say getting the most out of your molds. They have the molds for these. They have this kind of stuff. I could very easily see 6 months from now, who knows, maybe any day now, we could see Matt and Brian figures part 2, repaint action. I could see that happening very easily. I would not be shocked at that. Super 7's been known to do one-off exclusives, different things. We're seeing it right now. I think there's a Big Bad Toy Store link in the description below. They have a Raphael Super 7 trench coat Playmates kind of throwback figure. You can get that. So some store exclusives, getting the most out of your mold. Could see this happening. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do love that mask. I think that is fabulous. Then you do get extra heads, and that's one thing we love with Super 7. They give you all kinds of different extra heads. It's almost maddening sometimes because I really want to use all these heads. I don't care if we're talking about Lion-O, Brian Myers, or somebody else. You want to use all the heads. They're so good most of the time. Or at least it could set your figures different. Like if you're a huge Brian Myers fan and you're like, gosh, I can't choose which head to use, maybe you go get an old Mattel Elite. Maybe you get a basic figure. Maybe you do a little custom job and make use of each one of these heads. You very easily could do that. So that is something to take note of. Now we're going to look at the faces here, the heads here. And I got to be honest, when I looked at the prototype images, the pictures online before we got these, Brian's head looked just a hair off. And I've complained before about Super 7. They do consistently struggle with human anatomy. They do an amazing job when you're talking Thundercats, Ninja Turtles, things like that. The Simpson figures, those look amazing. But somewhere along the way, making human faces, there's a few things lost sometimes. I don't know what it is. We saw it a lot with New Japan figures. We've seen some of the glossy skin tones going on. And much like Matt Cardona, that's still there, but it's not to the glossy degree of the Super 7 New Japan figures, for example. But there's still a hair of a gloss there. But these faces on Brian Myers, for the most part, come off a little bit more cartoony. I think even a little more cartoony than Matt Cardona. Just a hair more. So that is a little bit disappointing, but I think I got some ideas. And once we get into that, I think we can see how I'm going to fix that for my collection. Let's look at these head scans first. So the first one we got here is Brian with his mouth wide open, kind of a shocked look. To me, part of the problem with some of these is the eyes maybe are too close together. They should be just a hair out more. But it's an interesting one. You can see the red of his tongue, and then it almost looks like he just has two front teeth. It doesn't look like it fills the whole mouth. So that is a little suspect on this one. He does have the flowing locks going on in this head sculpt. But yeah, that's this one. This one is not going to be used for me, at least as of right now. We'll dig into the one with the hat here. Now, this is a good one, as Brian likes to wear his hat backwards. We see him wear his hat all the time, so this fits. This is really a casual Brian Myers. This is at a concession stand at a show or at a Mets game or something, or you saw him at a fan convention. This is kind of how he would look. So this would be a really good one if you could find a soft goods from a third-party company, maybe a basic body or an elite body. You pop this in, you got street gear Brian Myers. Brian Myers ready to party, go to a party or something. That's what this is. Good logo on the back of the hat, Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. Pretty good. I like the looks of this. The beard looks good. The mouth, he's got a little bit of a smirk going on. The eyes kind of lose me a little bit, but this is all right. I don't mind this head sculpt at all. It's definitely better than the last one. Then we get this one where he's got the old man bun going on. Oh, watch out for those man buns. Brian Myers, man bun city is what we got here. You know, Kyle, I'm not opposed to a man bun, especially when I'm like doing yard work or something, but I am not coordinated enough to do that or even put my hair in a ponytail. Yes, it's true. So I just put a hat on and kind of stuff it back. But one of these days I'll learn or I'll cut my hair, one or the other. But this one's okay. He's got that same smirk going on. It could be just my eyes on mine. He's got a little bit of look into the stars a little bit. But it depends. How do you like your Brian Myers figure? Do you like the hair down or do you like man bun? For me, hair down's the way to go. Okay, I'm going to put this one right behind the hat, but this one is the worst. The Screaming Head Sculpt is the worst one for me so far. But then we get to the Plain Jane Brian Myers, and this one grows on me a little bit. It still has a little bit of the funky eye problem. The eyes are a little unmatched, which Super 7 notoriously it does pretty good on paint jobs. But the eyes are just a little hair off here, enough to notice on this one, but not terrible. I don't see any paint problems like we saw with Matt Cardona where the logo was missing on part of one of his boots. That was very unfortunate. But yeah, very good looking figure here as a whole. The blue and orange pop, as we all know, right now if you're in your Target stores, Alley Viper Mania is running wild right now. G.I. Joe Classified Series. Alley Viper, of course, blue and orange. Maybe Brian Myers in another life would be an Alley Viper. I don't know. But very color pleasing to the eye, orange and blue, for me at least. But a fabulous looking figure. I really do think this color pops on here. It just looks really good. Once again, we get a vest just like we got with Matt Cardona. The vests are surprisingly removable. Surprisingly very easy to remove. A lot easier than some of the Mattel ones. Bam, you can be in and out of this really quick. I like this material better than soft goods, and I like this material better, obviously, than the harder, hard to get off ones that we see with a lot of Mattels. I think this is the perfect middle ground. Soft goods looks a little bit like Barbie clothes sometimes if it's not right. We saw that with some of the New Japan figures. So I do like this vest, and I should. He's got the Brian Myers logo right there on the pocket. And then you got Never Defeated right there on the side, the other pocket. Then Brian Myers, pro wrestler, established 1985. Oh, 1985. Whenever I think of 85, 86, 87, I think of Topps baseball cards. That's how I take note of my years. I don't know if you're that way, but I got that going there. But I love that vest. I love the hoodie, the gray hoodie against the black. Just fabulous. Fabulous accessory. And then we get down to Brian Myers as a whole, plain. And once again, like the Matt Cardona figure, of course, we opened that one. Check out that review. Got to compare the two. And I think the figure does look better with the vest on. So I will be keeping that vest on. He has a good stance to him. And the articulation is the same as other Super 7s. You got the bicep swivel. You got the shoulders that go way up. A good ratchet joint to them. They go way up there. Of course, single jointed elbows, which I know a lot of people do not like. They want double jointed, but these have a lot more give than a traditional single jointed, if that makes sense. But it is truly single jointed. It is not double jointed. You got fists that are removable. I do think the hands are just a hair small. They need to be just a little bit bigger. So we do got that going on. Pinless joints, I should add, because pinless joints, that's the wave of the future. We're seeing Mattel jumping in on the pinless joints. Got to think Jazzwares will eventually, but we're seeing it right here with Super 7, so that is always good. Head turns all around, every which way you'd want it to go, up, down, all around, and is removable, hence the extra heads. You do get the big ab crunch going on. You can get a little bit back. You can get a decent amount forward, but not super articulated in the ab crunch department. Just so you know, splits, he can do a pretty good split. There's a lot of articulation there on the legs. No thigh cut, but you do get single jointed knees. You do get the knee pad going on. No boot swivel, but ankle rockers. You can move the ankles in every which way you could possibly want to. Beautiful artwork on here. You got the Myers kind of logos on the side. You got the big M on his stomach on top of his singlet, which is really nice. A little bit of grease to this one. Every once in a while you get Super 7 that has a little bit excess plastic grease going on, so he's a little bit greasy. He's almost like a Jack Sticky Disease, but not quite. But very good looking figure. He does have the tattoos on his forearms of his daughters, Madison and Mackenzie, it says right there, and that is really cool. And I know he's mentioned before how much that means to him, and I get it. A guy with 2 daughters as well. I get why he would like that. So that will forever live on. His daughters will always have this figure and say, hey, look at that. They can always look to that. That is something that is pretty cool, if you ask me. But all in all, not too shabby. I'm going to pop on that other head sculpt I liked a little bit better. Not that one. Let's see how this one looks with the hat. I think the hat only looks good with the vest. And of course, we'll have glamour shots of all this kind of stuff. But the heads do just pop on and pop off. You got to work them in there a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I am a little disappointed in the head scans on the Brian Myers figure. I think they could have been a hair better. I mean, you know who they are. I don't know if it's one of those things you close your eyes and that's who you think of. I don't know if you pop the head off and give it to somebody if they'd know. And the eyes seem to be just a little bit off on mine as well. That could be very depending on your figure. But he does fit on a stand, of course. So if you need stands, you can put Brian on there if you need to. But it looks good. But I like the figure. Let's see. I'm going to grab the Matt Cardona here. Boy, it's tough. It's pretty much right there even. I do love the gear on Brian Myers. I love the color combinations. But Cardona has him just by a hair. Just by a hair in the head department. At the end of the day, the face is the moneymaker, as we all know. That's kind of the thing people notice first. You could have the greatest body, the greatest decor. But if the head's wrong, you got issues. And we've seen that with like the Trish Stratus Elite. Pretty good body, great soft goods, hat and all that. It's all lost in the mix because the head is so bad. Not comparing either of these heads to that Trish Stratus level, but I think you know what I mean there. A little small in the hands too. That's the thing that does gripe, but that's all Super 7. I think they could do a little bit bigger in the hands department. But pretty good with this Brian Myers. Let's do some comparisons. So, of course, you got Matt Cardona right here next to him. Partners in crime, tag team, feuding, friends, podcast hosts. There you go. So we got these two. Of course, you got to get the old Lion-O Super 7. See how he scales with other Super 7 figures, Super 7 Ultimates. So there's something outside of the wrestling landscape right here. Love me some Lion-O, as you know. So there's Lion-O. Then you get Cody Rhodes, of course, AEW Jazzwares. Pretty much the same height there. And it looks like Matt and Brian are about the same height. I think there's maybe an inch or two between them of difference. So I don't know if that's exactly right, but it doesn't bother me. He does fit in with the Cody Rhodes Jazzwares. Of course, you do have Okada, another NJPW Super 7 figure. Fits right in. I believe they've had a match back in TNA back in the day, if I remember right. So you got Okada there, so he does kind of line up with Brian a little bit. How about another super? I keep wanting to call him a Super 7 figure. I don't know why. But a Jazzwares Darby Allin. Very small, but he is. He's just a little guy in face paint. So he kind of squares up there against Brian Myers. And then, of course, you got Jax, Ruthless Aggression, Stone Cold Steve Austin. One of the absolute best Ruthless Aggression style figures Jax gave us. Phenomenal head scan, head sculpt, however you break it down. You can kind of see him. I think that works really good with him next to Brian Myers there. So you got a lot of comparisons here. And then, of course, you got to go with his Mattel figure. And now he was one of the lucky ones very early on to get the chase. So we know the chases started early on in Mattel, went away for a long time, then came back with Shelton Benjamin. But then, of course, Kurt Hawkins was lucky enough to get one. So you can see how he kind of squares up with Kurt Hawkins. Brian Myers is a little bit taller, so it's not quite even Stevens, if one might say that. But I absolutely love this Kurt Hawkins figure here. This Elite. I love the black chase gear. I think it is a fabulous figure. I'm still going to say this is my favorite Brian Myers figure of all time. I guess this one's close, but I do love this. The orange, the black, just the looks of it. I just think the head sculpt on this one is tremendous. This is still my favorite Brian Myers, Kurt Hawkins figure, but this one's got a lot of good stuff going through it. And of course, the accessories do pull this one up a whole lot. And I did mention this earlier, this kind of COVID mask, we'll call it, he wears. Now, the nice thing about this mask is it can hide some of his face. So that is one thing that I'm going to use. Sorry, Brian, I'm not butchering your face too much, but you can put this mask on him, and I'm definitely got to put the soft goods, the vests on both of these guys. I will put that on, but this mask I think will really help hide some of the facial features I don't like, and really bring this figure up to basically be even with Matt Cardona's figure. I might even like Brian's a hair more. Once I play with it, sit on it and sleep on it for a while, put all the accessories on, get him exactly how I want, this could jump ahead with the COVID mask. And that's just what I think, and that's from where I sit, and as you guys know, that's where I sit, is right here at this table. So we'll see how it shakes out. You guys know, like when we do top 10 lists, top 5 lists, you got to sit on them, got to let them breathe for a while, and then you'll figure out what you really like. But both solid enough. I'm happy I picked them up. They do got a little bit of that glossy skin tone that a lot of people don't like, myself included, that we get with the New Japan figures, but cleaned up a little bit. It's a little bit more clean. It's not as glossy. Still, the head sculpts just aren't 100% where I would like them to be. Constant learning, constant improvement. I know Super 7's working on it. I'm sure in future releases they might get better. And who knows, when they do Brian and Matt, Series 2, different paint job stuff, maybe we'll get a different head. Maybe we'll get some of that stuff fixed. I don't know. You never know, but I do think we haven't heard the end of these two in Super 7 Ultimate line. I would bet the house on it. Bet the house. But what would you bet the house on? What are your thoughts on Brian Myers? Did you like it? Did you pass on it? Are you picking it up? Did you go to Big Bad Toy Store in the link in the description below and support the channel? You guys tell me. You tell me your thoughts. And of course, you've made it this far, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, as we're unboxing about every Super 7 figure under the sun. On top of about every wrestling figure, Marvel Legends. The list goes on. The hardest working man in YouTube right here, and we're going to continue on. Hard working. There you go. And then follow me on social media at SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, and of course, ProWrestlingTees.com. You can be rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling, just like I do, and support the channel. So look up Kyle Peterson on Pro Wrestling Tees. Like, comment, share the videos. You guys know it's always appreciated as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. But for Brian Myers, I am Kyle. See you guys all real soon.